You made it to level 2, deeper questions leading to deeper answers. I'm Tomas Garza, and I'm here to help you decide to transform. I'll be setting the pace for the process to support your unfolding. Learn and commit to a practice that brings simplicity and then awareness of what is ready to be released. Join me now and allow the experience of a deeper sense of love. Hello and welcome to Decide to Transform. I'm your host, Tomas Garza. We have a very special show in store for you today. Joining me from Edmonton, Alberta, all the way up in Canada is Cynthia Gauvreau. Now, I'm going to read Cynthia's bio to you in just a moment by way of introduction, but I want to tell you all, this is a show that I've really been looking forward to for a few weeks now, because a few weeks ago, I was Cynthia's guest on Tea with the Universe, which is her Facebook and YouTube spot. And we had an amazing conversation. And I think we're going to be picking up some of those threads here today. So before I read all of the this really, really interesting information that I know you're going to get a lot of interest from, a lot of questions from. Cynthia, welcome here to Decide to Transform.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'll read here. Cynthia Gauvreau is a mother, daughter, sister, friend, teacher, student, and dreamer. She has known since she was a young child that she was different and here to change the world, but only began sharing her secrets with the public in 2016. Cynthia is very well versed in the spiritual realm and uses her intuitive gifts and expertise to assist others in living an empowered, harmonious, and abundant life. The services she offers include unique transcendent card and energy readings, meditations, intuitive healing, DNA activation and reprogramming, and trilotherapy. In 2 words, universal healer. Cynthia is the owner of Wandware Creations, host of the Facebook and YouTube segment Tea with the Universe, the owner of Wand Publishing, and owner and co-creator of The Weekly Wand. And we'll close here with something that I love, which is Cynthia's favorite saying, "Welcome to the unknown, where everything is familiar and anything is possible." Cynthia, it's great to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
This has been so much fun. And I have to tell you, I'm going back a few weeks to when I was your guest on Tea with the Universe. We spent, I think, one of the most fun half hours that I've had in a long time being interviewed on all things spiritual and the topic of nightly astral projections, astral travel, downloads, and DNA upgrades. All of that came up. And I know that a lot of the listeners here are very interested in this exact thing, because I've been fielding questions about this on and off for the past year. So I want to start with that, with saying, well, thank you for having me as your guest a few weeks ago, because I love that. That prompted, guys, that prompted this experience right here today. So, you knew when you were very small that you were here to change the world and that you were different. So is there a specific point at which you realized, oh, okay, I'm not typical, I'm not usual, I'm here to do something really, really large? When was that for you?
I think my earliest memory of realizing that I was different than everyone else was probably about 7 years old. I didn't understand exactly what it meant or how I was going to change the world. And it wasn't necessarily a great thing at that age, because everyone wants to fit in. Nobody, no one wants to be the weird one. And I was the weird one. And I knew that internal calling, that fire in my soul. I knew there was something. Now I call it special. Back then it wasn't special. Back then it was something weird and different. So yeah. early as a young child.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, around age 7, and I remember not wanting to stand out. I think that's a universal 7-year-old experience
Mhm.
is is not being too mm, too standing out, I guess is the right. I'm looking for the right word. I'm not finding it, which is fun. Um, I like that when that happens, by the way. But yeah, people want to tend to blend in and blend into the background, adults too. So, you know, you mentioned that you had secrets in your bio. You tell us that you had secrets. Do you want to tell us some more about that?
Well, and that's where I came out of the closet in 2016. I started sharing those secrets, the ability to do transcendent card readings and the
Okay.
ability to do energy readings and the ability to maybe manipulate DNA, of course, with the other person's permission,
Yeah.
and sharing that I can astral travel and that I can speak to the universe and that I have all of these gifts that are unexplainable. And for the most part, you have to believe. There's not a lot of proof there. It's all a belief system and a trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. So, at what point did you become aware that you were astral traveling? Do you remember that?
I do.
Mm,
And that's um, on Tea with the Universe when I asked you, have you ever remembered anything you didn't know you forgot?
right.
That ties into the whole astral traveling thing. That's when that statement was born. I had started, as you saw in my bio, I have a trilotherapy diploma, so I have the ability to teach that. But I was a student when I started trilotherapy. It was to help me come out of a dark place. I had
Mm,
zero intention of teaching. I didn't even know what I was getting into. I
okay.
just, you hit that wall and you go where you just go where you're drawn. And that's where I ended up. So about my third or fourth class in, I went home that evening, went to bed, and woke up in the middle of the night and screamed, "Oh my God, I remember."
Mm,
I astral traveled that night, and that was the first time I remembered doing it. And then all of these memories came back to me from being a child and going on all of these different trips. They all downloaded in that moment. And that is the moment my journey began, and everything started coming back, and I started remembering things and learning more things and
okay.
opening up to more things.
Yeah. All right. So, and am wondering, I know a lot of the listeners are wondering, you mentioned trilotherapy. What is that?
In a nutshell, it's Western philosophy meets Eastern psychology.
Okay.
So we all have that internal battle where we're either heart centered or we're headstrong. Not
Mhm,
many of us listen to our soul. So in trilotherapy, you learn that the analogy is the soul is the parent, the
mm,
head is the son, the heart is the daughter. We want to bring them all together so that they can work together and we don't have that internal battle.
okay.
So we bring the soul to the forefront, which is bringing the parent home and teaching the children, head and heart, how to get along. So instead of
Oh,
being medicated and told to push your feelings down, we actually invite you to bring your feelings to the surface, feel into them, and then we run deeper into like a belief reprogramming, and we allow you to be who you are
mhm.
without that judgment, without that internal judgment.
Okay.
So it's a process, but I want to say beautiful. It becomes a beautiful process, but it's grueling. There are moments where you want to give in, give up, throw the towel in because it gets dark.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful. It's so transformational. It's wonderful.
Okay. Now, how old were you when you started this trilotherapy?
I was, I think, 42.
42.
I think 41, 42.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Uh, yeah. Well, and people have heard of all kinds of different types of shadow work, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's a blanket term, of course, you know, you're familiar with it, that people use for going really, really deep and into
Yeah.
uncomfortable places. And yeah, would you care to comment any more on some of the real uncomfortable places that you went in your own journey?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean,
Mm.
I sat, I don't remember going to work. I don't remember eating. However, I know that that took place.
Okay.
But what I do remember is sitting on my couch every day and crying in the dark. It was as if the world had shut off. No one reached out to me. I didn't get any text messages, any phone calls. It was as if I sent out the message to just leave me and let me heal. So it was
Mm.
10 days. Every night when I would go to bed, I would travel, I would learn more. I would get up the next day, do what, like I said, I don't remember going to work or anything like that. But I
Right.
do remember sitting on the couch and being in this very, very dark place and just crying, and all of these memories, all of these thoughts going through my mind, and kind of doing that internal belief repatterning and
Mhm.
looking at things from a different perspective and healing certain things. But it was like peeling the layers of an onion. You think you're done, and then you get deeper and you're sobbing even harder, and you're dealing with deep issues. And I
Mhm.
think the biggest one was being a child and feeling like I was bullied and I was picked on
Mm. Mm,
and
mhm.
I was misunderstood and disliked. However, as an adult, I took it upon myself to reach out to some of these people that I felt
Oh.
treated me that way,
Mm.
and they had no recollection of that. Their remembrance was completely different. They thought, I was a pretty young, bubbly, funny girl, and my memory is I was so withdrawn and nobody liked me and so shy. And it just, you compare stories and you hear how each person's perspective is so completely different. And then
Yes.
it takes you that level deeper, and you realize that it's all in your head. As as cliche as that sounds, we project what we feel about ourselves, we project onto
Yeah.
other people. So when I'm
Mhm.
thinking I'm being judged, it was because I wasn't living my true authentic self and I was judging myself. But
Mhm.
as a child, how are we expected to understand that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I've not met anybody in my adult life that remembers being 7, for example, and having that kind of ability to understand something like psychological
yeah.
projection, which we all do. But
And that's where trilotherapy comes in, because it
yeah.
takes you back to that moment and it allows you to reprogram your thought, because you're
Mm.
there physically, you're there emotionally as a child, but you're there physically as an adult. So you can understand and you can switch it and look at it like, hey, wait, I was projecting. So
Yeah.
you work through that. And it's almost as simple as that. I mean, there's
Mhm.
certain aspects where you just heal like that. And then there's other things that
Right.
require a lot of work. So,
Well, that's very true. That's very true. It's always a combination of that,
mhm.
and it's really interesting that you should mention the peeling layers of an onion, because the last guest that I had a recording with, the show that'll be out in a couple of weeks here, was talking about peeling the layers of an onion as well.
Synchronicities.
Yes, yeah, and that's a couple of times recently that we've talked about that. And of course, another thing that strikes me is how much of a journey this really is, and how important it is for people to have some patience with themselves. So, how did you find out about trilotherapy?
Ooh, now we're going deep.
All right. That's what I aim to do. You knew that before.
Yeah. Um, I hit that wall. I was at the end of my rope. I
Okay.
was I was done.
Mm, mhm,
I
mhm.
I you get to, not everyone, I'm speaking personally, of course.
Sure.
I felt that I had no journey. I felt that everything I touched I soured, that I had no gifts to share with the world, that my children were probably better off, for lack of better words, than having a failure as a mom. I felt that
Uh,
they were embarrassed, ashamed, that they
hmm.
had, they weren't proud, that they thought that they would be better off. So in my mind, I was completely done. That was the end of it for me.
Okay.
And a girlfriend of mine called me, or no, she texted me that day and said, I want you to come to a trial therapy intro with me tonight. And I said, no, I have plans. Like, I can't go. And she said, no, really, I feel that you would benefit from this. And I was adamant and said, no, I have plans. I'm not going. And she showed up
Hmm.
at my house and she said, let's go. And I was angry, but I thought, you know what? My plans can wait. I'll go to this course. And when I come home, I'll do what, I planned on doing.
Sure.
I went to this intro to Trilo, had zero desire to pursue it. And the instructor phoned me that night and said, you have energy that I have never, ever seen or felt,
Hmm.
ever. And she said, I want you in my class.
Okay.
And I had said, you know what? I don't have the funds to do this. I don't want to pursue this. And she said, please just come, please. And because even though where I was, I still believed promises weren't made to be broken, and I promised her that I would go,
Hmm.
I went.
Okay.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is that's very, very interesting because there are so many different healing modalities and
Yeah.
therapeutic modalities out there. I keep, as just being the host of this podcast, I learn about new modalities all the time. And what strikes me is how amazing it is that human beings have so many different tools at their disposal.
Yeah.
When the decision's made, there are a lot of ways, many ways that we can go deeper with ourselves. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now you've also mentioned in your bio some things that I'd love to talk about. And one of those is DNA activation and reprogramming. So this is something that is current. We talked about this a little bit on Tea with the Universe, and this is something that people are experiencing here right now in this current time. So, what exactly is that? I mean, what's really going on there?
That's a very difficult question to answer because we're all wired differently. So
Mhm.
there's never ever two experiences that are the same. I've
Yeah.
worked with quite a few people and the dynamics about it have never been the same. It's an energy connection and how the energy decides to work together.
Mhm.
So with one lady that I worked with, it was all done while we were asleep. And I did astral traveling and then worked on her. With another lady, it was done in a facility called Clarity in the eye pyramid room, which is this amazing structure that has so many different frequencies and vibrations coming through. And I was alert, and we were both alert, but she was in a meditative state.
Okay. Mhm.
With other people, it can be done by distant healing. It's all about how I connect with the individual and what their needs are. The
Okay.
outcome is the same, it's healing, but
Mhm.
the way I go about it is completely different with everyone.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love that you pointed out that it's very in fact vastly different for everybody because
Mhm.
there's a sense, a common sense that's actually the same. Clearly, it's not for people. Now, how does one then reprogram DNA?
um, so it has to be a mutual agreement.
Okay.
I can never ever work on anyone without their permission, ever. So if you were to come to me and say, I have this and this and this wrong, or this ails me, or I
Yeah.
have this childhood trauma that I want to work through,
Hmm.
we would, work out an agreement of what you would want me to do and what you wouldn't want me to do. And then the best way for me to describe it, because there's really no words. So to give you a visual, it's almost like I shrink down to like this tiny little person that can go inside your body.
Okay.
And it's like a stereo. If you hook the wires up incorrectly, there's going to be static or it's not going to work. So to visualize it, I'm inside of you and I'm looking at your DNA strands and seeing that red is sometimes connected with blue or just dangling there, or, is frayed. So I go in and kind of piece it back together and put,
Okay.
red with red, blue with blue. And then we work from there.
Okay.
So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a visual. That's not
Yeah.
exactly how it goes, but that's the best way to describe
Well, I think that's very helpful for the listener. So, yeah, thank you for
it.
that, for the visual, because we're here with just the audio. So it's, I think it's fun to imagine a very small person going in and reconnecting. That's the word
Yeah.
that comes to my mind, is reconnecting pieces that might be frayed, right, or mismatched somehow.
Hmm.
Now when you undergo this procedure for somebody, for example, what do they then begin to experience? I'm sure it varies. However, what commonly happens after this?
Um, One thing that, like you said, it is very different for everyone, but one thing in common is people start feeling sensations where they haven't felt sensations in a long time.
Okay.
For example, someone that may have had hip surgery and has no more feeling in the hip, they start to feel tingles and feel life and feel blood flow in that area of their body. So they just start to feel alive. They start to feel sensations again.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a part that no, are they often aware that they have had no sensations there? Or
No, they
okay.
only realize that once they start to feel the tingles. For example, one of the most recent ladies I worked with said that when I work with, and another thing I should mention, I feel everything that you're feeling.
Hmm.
So I know exactly where you're being worked on. I can
Ah,
feel it going through in my body. It's like a mirrored image.
yeah.
So one of the things she felt, because so much of her body had been turned off, she felt as though she was getting a blood transfusion every time we got together,
Oh,
because her blood would start pumping and start feeling. And it was kind of like a blood transfusion. However, it was like an energy transfusion more
mm-hmm.
so than a blood transfusion. But it's that energetic feeling, the knowing, the feeling that, oh, haven't felt that in a long time, bringing life back to parts of your body that you've forgotten about.
Okay. Yeah, very, very interesting. The transfusion is a very strong visual for people,
Mm-hmm.
but really that's a lot like these. We use the word downloads. I don't know. I
Yes.
use that word downloads. We talked about this on your show a few weeks ago. These experiences that people are having between 2 and 4 a.m., for example. There's an influx of information, which is the best way that I can describe it. So,
Mm-hmm.
for you, in your own experience, what's going on for you every evening here?
I'm not remembering a lot. I know that I'm getting downloads, but
Yeah.
I know that there's a collective greater good happening.
Mhm.
And, things that we are experiencing we haven't experienced in, um, I want to say, human history, to our knowledge, because certain alignments and certain things just haven't aligned.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In That's documented for us, because I believe we've been around a lot longer than what's documented. So I want I want to
Yes.
say that in what's documented, everything is new. And that's why it's so hard to believe. And so many people are being called crazy and, so much of this. And,
Yeah.
people are saying, oh, you're going to blame it on the new moon or you're going to blame it on the stars. But it's not blame. It really is happening. Certain things are happening right now. And collectively, a lot of people are waking up.
Yeah.
And I know waking up is being used so loosely these days, but it's true. I mean, we're remembering things that we didn't know we forgot, for example. We're listening to that intuitive gut feeling. We're getting those downloads at night. We're waking up in the morning with amazing ideas. And we're not remembering where they came from. And sometimes we are remembering. So there's just
Mm-hmm.
like a personal example is I've been having a lot of issues with foods lately,
Okay.
with a lot of things that I've been ingesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a chat with the universe, tea with the universe, for
Uh-huh.
example.
Yes.
And the message that was given to me is simple. And if we only ever thought of this, it's so simple. Is it nutritional? Is it nutritious? That is my
Mm.
question. The universe said to me, don't read the calories, don't read the ingredients, don't look at
Yeah.
this, look at that, don't worry about gluten, don't worry about vegan. Look at it, feel into it. Is it nutritious? If your body says it's nutritious, ingest it. If your
Mm-hmm.
body says it isn't, don't eat it. Like it's as simple as that. We think so much about things, we forget about the simple things. Like, is it nutritious? How simple is that?
Right.
So, and that was my most recent download. Like
Mm.
ask yourself, is it nutritious mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? Is it nutritious?
Okay. Yes. Now, no, is it often your experience where you get an answer to a question or specific words spoken to you, or is it often more nebulous than that?
It's a variety.
It's a
I
variety.
find,
Okay.
yeah, when in doubt, I write a letter to the universe. I will write it, put it under my pillow, and I will sleep on it until I get whatever, until I know that I have the answer. Whether it's a positive answer, negative answer, the universe lets me know when I've received that answer.
Okay.
So in those cases, it's not even always an answer. Sometimes it's a situation.
Hmm.
Something happens. So it's all over the spectrum. There's never just one way. I'm learning something new all the time and in a different way.
Okay. Yeah, and well, and that's the way a lot of people have described it. You're actually the first guest who has wanted to spend a lot of time on this, and I'm really happy about that because I'm also experiencing these, and people have asked me questions, and sometimes there's a clear message in language that we would
Mhm.
recognize. Sometimes there's not. So yeah, it's very interesting to hear from you. And then what's going on with the time frame that these types of things occur? But this is not every night for a lot of people, but
Mhm.
often, and it's in the middle of the night between 2 and 5 a.m. So what's the significance of that period of time?
Well, that's between 2 and 4 generally means your guides are trying to tell you something, share something with
Okay.
you, that you're
Yeah.
taking a download, like not necessarily to change your life, but to make a change. Like
Hmm.
um it really depends for everyone, but generally between 2 and 4, it's about change, it's about learning, it's about growth, it's about change, it's about messages,
Okay.
just messages. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's a time frame in certain healing and plant medicine ceremonies where it's said that it's very active. The medicine's very active between
Hmm.
2 and 4 in the morning, kind of for that reason. It's like there's a thinness or a thinning of a veil. Yeah.
Yes, and I mean the closer to a new moon and a full moon and a blue moon
Mm-hmm.
and a wolf
Mm-hmm.
moon, like these certain things, and depending on what's in retrograde and where the planets align, and there are so many different factors that
Yeah.
that that weigh on what you're experiencing. And
Hmm.
like last night, I can't remember everything, but I know when I travel, especially if there's a lot of downloads, there's a lot of spinning and contorting and like expanding and shrinking. And there was a lot of that last night.
Okay.
I'm not too sure where I went, what I gathered. I don't recall in this moment.
Yeah.
But what I do remember is the expansion and the contraction and the spinning and the vortex and, imploding and exploding all at the same time. And if anyone's astral traveled and they remember, they can
Hmm.
understand that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds unusual to someone that has never experienced it, but to someone that has, they know exactly what it
Mhm.
is. So
Yes. Yeah. And do you feel like there are a lot of people that have experienced that have experienced astral travel, yet they're not consciously aware of that?
I do. And I
Okay.
feel that there are even more that are consciously aware, but are in the closet because they're afraid to come out and tell someone. Because if they haven't experienced that, who's going to believe you? And
Yes.
that's why I love to share this. That's why I created Tea with the Universe.
Hmm.
I want people to have a safe space. I want people to talk about this. The more we talk about it, the more we come
Okay.
together, the more we grow, the more,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, powerful we become.
Hmm.
So,
I love this. And let's talk about Tea with the Universe right now, since you mentioned that as a safe space. That's deeply resonant with me as a podcast host. It's one of the things that I seek to do for people is give them a space to express their message to a different
mhm.
audience. Yeah, in a safe space. And well, we talked about this on Tea with the Universe. So would you like to say a little bit more to the listeners here about that platform?
Sure. It's a safe space to come and talk about anything. I mean, sometimes we talk about astral traveling, other times we talk about the weather, other times we talk about a childhood trauma, other times we talk about past life regression or adult trauma. It's it's organic conversation between
Yeah.
myself, my guest, and the universe. And I
Hmm.
find that no matter what topic, no matter what the topic is during that segment, the right viewers tune in.
Yeah.
And somebody is always being helped, or somebody always has a question. Like it's it's a universal conversation. It's never pre-planned, just like ours. It was not pre-planned. We
Mm-mm.
came on and we just let the universe take over, and whatever came up, came up.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I love about it. And one thing I get from people is they want to come on, but they don't think they have anything to share. And I
Oh.
always invite people. Everyone has a story that resonates with someone else. I
Hmm.
invite everyone on my segment because it's for everyone. It's not just for the spiritual person. It's not just for the abused person. It's not just for the introvert or extrovert. It is for everyone. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I really love that it's for everybody. And what would you say to the people that are having astral travel or download type experiences and they don't feel like they have a place to talk about it? What's your message to these folks? Because they're out
oh,
there, like you mentioned.
stay tuned till the end of the segment and I'll leave my contact information. Please contact me. I would love to hear and share and journey with you because that is my fuel. That
Mm.
excites my spirit and my soul. It's the more I talk about it, the more people that have experienced it, the more
Yeah.
it's just amazing how. And I've kept it to myself for so long, so I could go
Uh,
on and on and on and talk for days and months about this because it's so amazing and invigorating and
mhm.
just incredible. I want to hear everyone's story. I want to hear it all. So share, share,
Yeah.
share, share, share. And you
Uh,
know what? We will find each other. Don't worry about the
mhm.
people that don't believe you or question it.
Okay. Right.
shine your beacon so that the people that have gone out there with you can find you.
I love it. Yeah, I really love that. And this is a depth and complexity to Tea with the Universe that was under the surface a few weeks ago when Lisa and I appeared on your show. That
Mhm.
I'm happy that you're taking the time right now to talk about. This is going to impact a lot of people listening to this show. This is going on. People are asking me about this, and I'm fortunate enough, you're fortunate enough to have safe spaces where we can talk about it. But clearly, not everybody is, because these are not experiences that people are necessarily used to having. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and I very much invite all of the listeners to please stay tuned until the end of the segment, which is not right now because we have plenty more to talk about. But this is really, really good. It's Tea with the Universe, and Cynthia will give in a few minutes her contact information, ways that you can get a hold of her personally and find out more about this segment. And I'll just put in another plug for it. I thought it was great fun to be
It
on Tea with the
was.
Universe.
We
Yeah.
had so much chemistry. Me, you, and Lisa. It was fireworks. It was
Mhm.
wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was fun. And for the listeners, we're referring to my good friend and business partner Lisa Berry, who's appeared on several interviews here on this show, co-hosting with me. And okay, so this is really, really good because there's so many people that are having these types of experiences. And you know exactly what that's like because you were aware at a very young age that you were different. So, is there one thing that's blocking people from sharing more than anything else in your experience?
Um, in my experience, and this is a different time than now, I find things are more acceptable now. However, people still, there's still that fear of being judged. That will be with us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say that will be with us forever, because once we all release ego and go within instead of without,
Hmm.
we will release that and there won't be that fear of judgment. But for now, we come from a place of we're conditioned. So we fear what other people think of us. And
Right.
as a child, or even as an adult now, I find that a lot of people are afraid. There's that fear base. I don't want to
Hmm.
tell my best friend. I don't want to tell my partner. I don't want to tell my
Yeah.
parents because I don't want them to think I'm crazy.
Hmm.
Because it's not, people like proof, especially nowadays, more so than before, I find. People always want proof because if you go to the internet, you can prove something, you can disprove something. So they want concrete evidence.
Yeah.
How can you prove that you are out astral traveling in other dimensions?
No.
Yeah, like you really can't,
Mm-mm.
other than sharing your story and hoping that the person you're talking to says, "Oh my God, I did that too."
Hmm. Hmm.
So that,
Yeah.
it's kind of a catch 22 because you want to share. I know I did. I wanted
Sure.
to tell the world,
Oh yeah.
but there was no one to listen or to hear me.
Hmm.
So that's right now, by doing this. And again, thank you so much for inviting me on here to give
Absolutely.
people the outlet, to give people
Yeah.
the, hey, I'm listening, share your story because I want to travel with you.
Yes. And this is what we want. This is what Cynthia and I want. This is what every podcast host, radio show host wants, is to give you, the listener, this space. So if this is something that you're interested in, we do want you to stay tuned so you can get a hold of Cynthia, you can get a hold of me, because there are multiple outlets for you, and it will help you in your healing journey.
Even if you want to remain anonymous, like
Yeah.
I have a publication called The Weekly Wand where people
Hmm.
submit things and remain anonymous because they don't want to be judged, but they want to share their story. So that's
Yeah.
another link, or that's something else I can share. So if people want to share something, but they don't want anyone to know, please just email me, send me something, and it can be anonymous. I just want to hear your stories. I love them.
Yeah, we all do, and that makes us as hosts of podcasts that much more likely to say, okay, why don't you come on and tell me more about that. You
Yeah.
question, you asked me that several times, I remember. Tell me more about that. Well,
Yeah. Because I just love to hear, right? It's like, ooh, tell me. I want to
Yeah.
compare notes.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's so interesting when people have had these types of experiences, and even if you haven't, you might know people that have, and they
Yeah.
might want to come to you because you might be their safe space as well.
And that's, that's another thing that
Mm,
the the circle is so broad
mm.
that if I don't resonate with someone, I know someone that will. There's
Yeah.
always someone that knows someone that you may resonate with. So,
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely, definitely true. And so this is very, very important that people know that you've got a place or several places, frankly, to have this kind of conversation, because there are reasons why, if this is happening to you, there are reasons why
yeah,
this is happening to
you're
you.
not the only one.
No. No, you're not. Well, it's happening to the two of us for sure. And
Yeah.
we're not the
And
only ones.
yeah, I know many people. So, I mean, we
Yeah.
always think we're alone because it's not the norm or the mainstream. Who wants to be mainstream anyway? I love this. I invite this. I welcome it.
Yeah. Yeah. In my late 40s, I've come to believe the same thing, that it's more fun to be weird, so to speak, and different.
Yes, because like I said, you shine that beacon, the other, for lack of a better word, weirdos find you and join
Yeah.
you, and you build your tribe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And this is something that I would encourage all people to do, is you never know who you're going to reach with your story. So we absolutely do want to encourage you to tell it. There's a lot of energy behind that.
Yeah. Whose
Yeah.
life you're going to change, whose life you may save.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cynthia and I are both putting in a pitch for you to find someone safe, reach out and tell them, because
Mm,
you never know. You just don't ever know. And
yeah.
Cynthia, I want to come back to something that you said a minute ago, and that's about collectively we're remembering. So would you say some more about that? Because I know people are curious about this. There's a lot of talk about it, but in your experience, what does this actually mean?
For me personally, it means building that tribe,
Uh-huh.
coming together with people, even, you and I being connected right now.
Hmm.
It's just that the 5 degrees of separation. The
Right.
truer we are to ourselves, the more authentic we are, the better chance we have of collectively building this. And again, another cliche, new norm. Because you know, what I see coming in the future, and this is a whole other segment, but
Sure.
what I see in our future is not necessarily what my next door neighbor sees. And I
Yeah.
feel, and again, this is me personally, I feel that what I see is correct. And I know they probably feel what they see is correct.
Hmm.
But I just think the more people that feel into that authenticity of soul and, listen less to what other people think and listen to less to what they think, start feeling, think less,
Yeah.
feel more. That's
Hmm.
another one of the things I tell people a lot. Think less, feel more. You will never
Yes.
get the wrong answer when you feel into something. If it feels right, it is. When you think about something, if people have ever noticed, the more time you think, the more confused you get. Because then we have that head and that heart. That's where trial therapy comes into it. You have that battle, that internal battle. Do I listen to my head? Do I listen to my heart?
Hmm.
Feel into it. Come from your center, come from your essence. You will always get that right answer. Whether it's what you want to hear or not, you
Hmm.
get what is needed in that moment. And
Yeah.
collectively, the more of us that do that, the more of us that will come together. Because I feel, had you not been listening to your internal authenticity, authentic self, had I not listened to my authentic self, you and I never would have connected. Had
Hmm.
I not responded to Lisa when she reached out to me, this never would have happened. So it's all about authenticity.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel that anyway.
Well, and I would agree. And I think that this is something that people would, in general, have a hard time disagreeing with, because it is all about authenticity. Yet, as human beings, we spend so much time being very, very radically inauthentic, especially with ourselves, first of all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's, well, it's rampant. It's prevalent. So, what do you suggest for somebody that is interested in doing this kind of paying attention to what they feel and getting more out of their head? Are there certain modalities, certain practices or techniques that you'd recommend to somebody that wants to work on that a little bit?
Yes. It starts right here. You start with self, and
Hmm.
then it will expand. So, what I generally tell people is, you know, the harsh reality is get out of your own head.
Yeah.
Now, how to do that are small, simple steps that require a lot. I don't want to say simple and I don't want to say small because that's taking away from them,
Sure.
because they seem small, but they are huge. When you walk by the mirror, instead of looking away from it and not liking who you see, tell yourself one thing you like about yourself that day, whether it's your socks, whether it's your smile, whether it just, or flash yourself a smile. Just when
Yeah.
you walk past a mirror, just do something like that.
Hmm.
Write that letter and put it under your pillow to the universe. Meditation helps. And I know so many
Hmm.
people feel they don't know how to meditate, and meditation is merely closing your eyes and taking a deep breath.
Hmm.
Just, go within. When you have that internal turmoil, kind of step away from it.
Yeah.
And it'll teach you how to quiet the mind. I mean, sit in silence, go for a walk, close your eyes, cry. All of these things that, people maybe look at as being weak or unnecessary are not. It's and that's why I say those little things, because they seem little, but they take so much strength and so much courage. As silly as it sounds, to look at yourself in a mirror and give yourself a wink and a gun, or say, "Hey, I like you."
Hmm.
Hey, I like you. How many of us struggle with looking in the mirror and saying, "Hey, I like you"?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't start there. You start with, "I like my big toe." It seems so simple and so tiny, but
Hmm.
it grows, it expands. And smile at yourself. And then
Yes.
you'll notice that you're doing other things. And then all of a sudden, you're looking in the mirror and you do like who you see. And then you set the precedence for other people, because other people see that you like who you are. They now have to step up their game. You set
Yes.
your vibration higher, they either have to vibrate higher or they vibrate out and someone else vibrates in.
Hmm.
So, but it all starts at home. It all starts within. We all have to learn to love and accept ourselves.
Yeah. Yes. Uh, my one word response to that is yes. We all, yeah, because we all do. We all have to learn to love and accept ourselves. And I thank you for sharing that list of what works for you, because I think the thing that stands out is these are all practical. They're not necessarily easy to do by any stretch, but they're very practical and anyone can do them. Yeah.
And it's difficult. I mean, I remember when I started looking at myself in the mirror. Eyes are windows to the soul. You
Yeah.
see everything, and
Hmm.
we don't always like what we see, but we have the ability to learn to love what we see. And we also have the ability, with the help of others, with tools, to fix. And I don't want to say what's broken, because people aren't broken. People just they need to learn how to love themselves, how to accept themselves, and how to deal with emotional trauma. And that's where belief repatterning and stuff like that comes in, and DNA activation.
Yeah.
And but there's so many modalities. Those aren't the only two. It's whatever works for you,
Mhm.
whatever you're drawn to. But when your car is broken, you take it to a mechanic. So let's change our oil. Let's just give ourselves an oil change and see how much better we run.
Mm, much better.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we really do. And this is the beautiful thing about this is that we're so fortunate to be living in the 21st century, and pandemic aside, all of this aside, everybody has all of these tools at their disposal 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like you said a few minutes earlier, there's never been a time like this in human history.
Yeah.
um, at all. Now, as far as that goes, then you offer a number of different services. So I know we've been talking about Tea with the Universe, and I really want to impress on all of the listeners to please, please reach out to Cynthia. Please reach out to people you know that have podcasts, because we all of us, each and every one of us wants to hear your story. But Cynthia, how can people get a hold of you in particular?
I can be reached on Facebook at Cynthia Gauvreau, or, which might be easier, the Weekly Wand Facebook page.
Okay.
I invite everyone to check that out. I do daily affirmations, and I interact with everyone and leave just self-help stuff. And it's just a really fun place to go and feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
It's just a positive environment. And I have Cynthia.services. That's another one of my websites that highlight everything that I'm doing right now. So if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out to me, I can definitely be reached at info@Cynthia.services as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's info, just to clarify, at cynthia.services. Is that .com?
No, there's nothing. It's just Cynthia.services.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were going to say something else there. Yeah.
And I was going to say, and a side little gig that I do that, really has nothing to do with anything else is I own Wand Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah.
anyone is interested in that as well, you can find all of that on my Cynthia.services page. And if it's not too confusing, you can reach me for anything publishing related at cynthia@wandpublishing.ca.
Okay. Well, and as we're talking about this, I'm writing this down because we're going to repeat it all, just in case somebody didn't catch it. Yeah. And so then on Facebook, it's Cynthia Gauvreau, Gauvreau, or the Weekly Wand, your Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
And then email is info@cynthia.services.
Yes.
It's Wand Publishing, the publishing house of the Weekly Wand. Wand Publishing. So we've got Cynthia at wandpublishing.ca. Canada. Yes. Yeah. I always want to repeat it, because I'm often one of these people that's caught without a pen. I'm listening to a podcast. I'm loving the guest. I'm loving the host, loving the content. And then this segment of the broadcast comes up and I don't remember at all what it said. So yeah, but I mean, again, we really, really want to impress upon all of the listeners the importance of telling your own story, because you don't know who you're going to reach. And again, the show that Cynthia and I have been talking about is Tea with the Universe. And now, how would they reach you in any of these ways to be a guest on that? Okay. I love it. Well, wonderful.
And I invite everyone to reach out because, and like I said earlier, you have a story that someone needs to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone does. Everyone.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, we obviously can't emphasize that enough, because there's so much energy behind that. There's so much power behind it. And for you as the one telling it, there's a tremendous amount of healing, not only for other people that will hear it, but also for yourself, maybe more importantly. Yeah, it's a big, big deal. So Cynthia, as we wrap up today, this has been fun and a pleasure. And I'm really happy that we had this conversation about people's stories. There's a lot of energy here for both of us. Now, are there any kind of parting words or anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners today?
I think the main thing is just be who you are, because you're always going to impress someone and you're always going to upset someone. But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
if you're true to who you are, you get to go to bed with that clear conscience. It doesn't matter how you leave others at the end of the day. What matters is that you were true to yourself. Like, something that some of us battle with is, well, they don't like us, or they think that blah 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 about us, when in reality they have their own stuff going on. They're not thinking about you. That's
Mhm.
you in your own head again, thinking and projecting. So do what makes you happy, because no matter what, somebody's going to be upset. So at the end of the day, you may as well be the one that's happy.
Yes.
Yeah, like just do you, and the right people will find you and surround themselves to, surround you. And again, reach out to me. I want to hear all your astral traveling stories. I want to hear, and other, not just astral traveling stories. I mean, I want to hear everything.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and again, it's Cynthia Gauvreau and the Weekly Wand on Facebook, and info@cynthia.services to get a hold of you. And I really hope that you get a lot of people flooding your way, because it's a really wonderful show. And it was absolutely my pleasure to have been your guest a few weeks ago. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's been my pleasure to have this conversation with you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
thank you for the invite. It was wonderful. I enjoyed myself.
Perfect. And this has been Cynthia Gauvreau here on Decide to Transform. So be sure you check out the Weekly Wand Publishing, info@cynthia.services, and Tea with the Universe, a segment where Cynthia invites you to tell your story, no matter what it is. She's definitely a wonderful host and a safe space for you. So this has been a really, really fun time. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. This has been Decide to Transform, and we will see y'all back here soon.